What's cracking, yo? Welcome back to Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. As promised, I said once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I would release my top 10 players of all time. And while I thought I didn't need to think about it much, as I started putting together these rankings, I found it to be extremely difficult and found myself moving players up and down. I tried my best to be completely unbiased as much as I possibly could and really try to weigh things from as many angles as I possibly could. I started finding myself in debates with players where I would say, well, I think this guy was clearly the better basketball player, but this guy was still a great player, not as good as this guy. But when you look at what he was able to accomplish in his career, this guy had a better career with better accolades. And I didn't want this to turn into a better player versus who had the better career, because I almost felt like I would be copping out of the greatest top 10 players of all time. So I had to try to find as much of a balance between purely what you are individually and the team's success. I always thought the debate for the greatest of all time, or even ranking 10 of the greatest players of all time, is always a very nuanced process. I don't think the answer is ever black and white. I just want to say that players have to get ranked, right? So while there may be a player that's high on the list, and there may be a player that's low on the list, it does not mean that there's a whole bunch of separation between player A and player B. The majority of the players on my top 10 list each have an argument to be the greatest of all time and to occupy that number one space. It really comes down to the details when parsing these players against each other. So as you can see, I'm not doing one video where I just go through all 10 players. I'm going to release a video for each player with their ranking and a explanation as to why I ranked this player where I did. And there's going to be a playlist specifically for that, and you can find the link to that playlist in the description of each of these videos. With that being said, let's get into the player for today. Coming in at number 3 on my all-time players is Larry Bird, aka the Hick from French Lick, aka Larry Legend. I don't know, you can see I got the green LED lights on for the boy Larry. Just a quick rundown of where we are at in our top 10 lists. At number 10, I had Shaquille O'Neal. At number 9, I had Tim Duncan. At number 8, I had Wilt Chamberlain. Number 7, Bill Russell. Number 6, Magic Earvin Johnson. Number 5, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Number 4, LeBron James. And number 3, the Hick from French Lick, Larry Legend, Larry Bird. Also with me placing Larry Bird number 3 and LeBron James number 4. That would also mean that, yes, I believe Larry Bird is the greatest small forward of all time. Sorry, not sorry, bronsexuals and lediclics. Yes, I believe Larry Bird is a better basketball player than LeBron James. I'm sure most of you who have been following my content and following my all-time player lists, ranking lists, probably had a good idea. After I dropped who number 4 was, y'all probably had a good idea who the last 3 players were. And most of you probably even know who my number 1 is. And most of you probably know who my number 2 is, but maybe some of you maybe like, oh, maybe 2 or 3 might be a toss-up for the 2nd and 3rd. But I'm pretty sure most of you knew who the last 3 players left were. And it was just a matter of how I would arrange number 2 and 3. And here we are. Now you probably know who my 1 and 2 are now, now that we got Larry out the way with number 3. And I'll say this. Shout out to all the Larry Bird fans, which are the majority of the people on my channel from what it seems like. and requesting this Larry Bird content and enlightening me because I thought I knew enough about Larry Bird. Like I thought I knew a decent amount of Larry Bird until I really started digging into Larry more and hearing you guys talk and looking at player testimony, coach testimony, film, more film, hearing Larry speak, and I was like, all this time I've had Larry ranked too low. For the longest, Larry was like 5 or 6. But after doing this channel and learning more about all these other players that I've been covering, I had to move Larry up to 3. I had to. Taking all the context, everything. I think Larry's a solid number 3. And with that being said, I was contemplating putting him at 2. I'm not gonna lie, I contemplated it, but ultimately I decided for me, 3 is where he belongs. And I'm sure that's gonna. Some of y'all might feel some type of way about that. Ain't no way in hell your number 2 pick is better than Larry. Ain't no way in hell your number 1 pick is better than Larry. And let me tell you all the reasons why. And I know what your points are going to be. Yeah, sure, good points. They're good. They're good argument points. You are very justified in your stance. But yeah, I got Larry as the number 3 greatest player of all time. All right. A lot of media has Larry Bird listed at 6'9", but anybody that's ever played against him, anybody that's ever seen him, all the testimony from everybody says Larry Bird is a legitimate 6'10" is the boy Larry Legend, all right? Out of Indiana State, drafted in 1978, round 1, with the 6th overall pick, was Larry Bird, selected by the Boston Celtics. Now, can somebody explain to me why Larry Bird was drafted? Because that was the 78 draft. Why was Bird drafted in 78 but didn't start till 79, 80? What was the reason for the draft being so early? I don't know, and I'm curious as to why it was like that. So please let me know if you have any idea in the comment section. So Larry Bird played from 1979 to 1992. A very solid career, very solid 13-year career. But when you put everything in a context, Larry really only played 12 years because he only played 6 games one of those seasons after he got his double Achilles surgery to get those bone spurs out of his heels. All right, so really, when you put it in the context, 12 years with the Boston Celtics by Larry Bird. All right, Larry Bird is a 3-time NBA champion, though never repeated. 2-time NBA Finals MVP, 3-time NBA Most Valuable Player, back to back. 12-time NBA All-Star, NBA All-Star Game MVP, 9-time All-NBA First Team, All-NBA Second Team once, 3-time NBA All-Defensive Second Team, Rookie of the Year, made the All-Rookie Team, 3-time NBA Three-Point Contest, back to back, 2-time 50, 40, 90, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the founder of the 50, 40, 90. All right. For his totals, Bird has over 21,700 points, over 8,900 rebounds, over 5,690 assists, for totals of, in the main statistical categories, for totals of 24.3 points per game, 10 rebounds on the game, 10 rebounds on the dot, a solid 10.0 rebounds per game, and 6.3 assists per game. There's so much that can be said about Larry Legend. I don't even really know where to start. Let's just talk about his game. Well, let's just start there. Let's just talk about the player Larry Bird. What kind of player was Larry Legend? We all know Larry usually gets this stigma attached to him that, oh, he looks slow, oh, he's slow, oh, he's unathletic, yada, 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 yada. Is he the fastest player on the court? No. Is he the most nimblest player on the court? Does he have the strongest first step burst? No. Does he jump the highest? No. But did he need to? Does his game not speak for itself? Did he have to fly like Michael Jordan? Did he have to have burst of speed like Russell Westbrook? Did he have to have a lethal first step like a Kobe Bryant? No, no. But rest assured, how the hell does Bird keep getting by all these defenders? First of all, you don't cover him. Bird will make you look stupid, right? He will catch you slipping, and you still might get dunked on and get blown past if you don't check him like you're supposed to check him. But what can you do? Because you know what Larry Bird had? The dude was extremely goddamn crafty. A true craftsman at his best. And no matter what double team, triple team, single ISO, excellent defender you could put on Larry, nobody was going to stay in front of him, despite this moniker of him being unathletic. Okay? I think unathletic is a bit of a stretch. He might not have been the most athletic, but unathletic is a bit of a stretch. Okay? Because if you see that man run on a fast break with the basketball against people running without the basketball, tell me that this dude ain't bolting down the court with them long ass legs at 6'10". And finishing however you want. And occasionally hitting you off with a dunk every now and then. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Like I said, Larry's crafty, man. The dude had amazing footwork. He had a knack to read defenses. He had a knack to keep the defenders off balance at all times. He had a knack for moving his body. He had a knack for presenting the ball in such a ways and deceptive ways to get a certain reaction out of the defenses, to put them in a certain defensive position to take advantage of them. He had ways of doing this. Larry Bird was playing chess when most defenses were playing checkers. Larry was a thinker. Larry could think the game. And if you can think the game at a higher level than your opponent, athleticism, I don't care how strong you are, I don't care how fast you are, I don't care how long you are, it's not going to make a difference if you don't have the high basketball IQ when you got a guy that's 2 or 3 steps ahead of you at all times. 2 and 3 steps ahead of you and 2 and 3 steps ahead of the help defense looking at him, trying to give you backup. And you still can't stop the guy. There's only been a select few players in NBA history who could do things like that, and Larry Bird is one of them. I've seen Larry Bird get doubled, triple teamed, maybe hard double team, even, and then the triple team kind of lurking, playing the zone. And I've seen Larry wiggle out of double teams and triple teams so many times to make a basket or make the pass, and they couldn't stop him. Fade away, left foot, right hand, left hand, spin baseline, step back, shoot it. Didn't matter. Couldn't stay in front of the guy. To the fact, we know about Larry smack talking. I'm just going to factor this into his game, what we're talking about now. When you got a guy like Larry Bird telling defenders, telling entire teams, telling his opposition what he's going to do, where he's going to be, exactly. Tell them his exact plan for the next play, and you still can't stop it. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Larry Bird, like I've learned, Larry Bird had to find ways to challenge himself in the games because most nights he was just so much superior than the opposition where he just started nuzlocking. If you don't know what nuzlocking is, it's a term that originated with Pokemon games and where Pokemon games can become very easy, right? So you create challenges and rules that you have to play by to make the game more challenging. And Larry Bird would put a nuzlocke on NBA games, professional basketball league games, just to make the game more challenging for him and have a little bit more fun with it. By telling players where he's going to be, by playing entire games left-handed on everything except long jump shots. Things like that. Larry Bird was nuzlocking people. Insane to think about. And talk shit about you after he busts your ass on the play and you still trying to run over to him and he just looking at you laughing. You got to be faster, buddy. Shoot Jay in your face. Come on, man. Like I said, Larry Bird was crafty. There wasn't a player in the league that could stay in front of him. Not at all. Larry Bird is one of the greatest shooters we have ever seen before. We already mentioned the back-to-back-to-back three-point shooting contest, but Larry Bird was lethal from everywhere on the court. Everywhere on the court. Shooter, bang, man down, or hand down, man down. Mark Jackson says, hand down, man down. Shooter, mid-range, fadeaway, leaning, he could lean. Floater, baby hook. Like I said, right, his left hand was nasty. One of my favorite plays of all time is when it was a missed basket. Larry on the right side of the basket catches it while in the air, switch to left hand on the right side of the basket, scoop layup, left hand. Beautiful. That's the only time I've never seen that. I've never seen that play duplicated. Not that play ever by anybody. Yeah, left hand, right hand didn't matter, man. Dude was a monster at 6'10", doing these kind of things with pure point guard abilities and shooting guard abilities. One could say we've never seen somebody quite like Larry Legend at his size, 6'10", have all of these skills. Nobody that at his level, I can't think of anybody at 6'10" that has his skill set and can perform at a high level every game. And we haven't even started talking about this. We're still on scoring. Boy, see, I said I was going to make this like a 50-minute video, but as much as I'm talking about scoring alone, it's turning into that. Let's move on to passing, because I could go on for days talking about all the ways Larry Legend could score so dynamically. Larry Bird is one of the greatest passers I have ever seen in my life. That I have ever seen in my life. Now, his assist totals are 6.3 assists per game. That says everything you need to know, especially at his position, because he wasn't the de facto point guard. But the dude had an amazing ability to get the ball in people's hands, much like Magic Johnson. I think Magic's a little bit of a better passer than Larry, but I would probably have to argue that Larry Bird is a top 3 passer of all time. He's either second or third, in my opinion. Larry Bird was a fundamentally sound passer and also a aesthetically pleasing, stylish passer as well. Could throw just phenomenal passes, things that probably no one else could really do in the history of our league outside of Magic Johnson and maybe a few select others. Larry's passing is just breathtaking, man. It's just, and then this guy was like Brett Favre, dude. Like, this guy was, from inbounds plays, this guy has more full court length passes than anybody in NBA history. The dude would just chuck that ball, one-handed or two-handed, across the court, and the ball would always land perfectly where it needed to be for the outlet player. The dude you could literally make a montage video, minutes long, of just Larry throwing full court bombs like it's a football. Incredible. And Larry Bird probably has more assists from a player that's on the floor, either butt on the floor or body on the floor, throwing amazing passes, even bounce passes off the floor to players for the basket. It didn't matter where on the court Larry was. He's one of those guys where you have to have your hands ready at all times, because even though it looked like there's no way this guy can slip a pass through, Larry's going to find a way to slip a pass through. Okay. Somebody dropped a comment in one of my Larry Bird videos. I don't remember who it was, but I said something in the video. It was like, you never see Larry dribble between the legs. But then somebody's like, yep, but he put the ball between a lot of people's legs instead. I was like, touche. That is very true, my friend. Yes, he had a lot of, we call nutmeg pass. Larry was, through people's legs all the time. And Larry would kill the fake passes too. Get the player to turn around, right, left, they turn, shoot it in their face or drop it off. Picasso with the ball. This is Larry Bird. Another thing about Larry Bird's passing, you look at his assist numbers, 6 assists per game. But I will continue to stress this. Larry Bird was not a ball-dominant player. Larry Bird did not monopolize the ball. And I know y'all have heard me say this before, and that's one thing I love about Larry. And it's one thing, I'm not a big fan of players that monopolize the ball and, they have all the stats, especially points, assists. The rebounds are what they are. That doesn't have to do with dominating the ball, but they'll have a lot of points and assists at a minimum from dominating the ball. And kudos to those players that can do it. I'm not saying it's easy to do. Some people could try it, probably won't succeed. But Larry was able to have these amazing numbers that he has, 24, 10, and 6 on a career, and he never dominated the ball. Could you imagine if Larry monopolized the ball like LeBron James, like James Harden, like a Russell Westbrook? Could you imagine what his numbers would be? Seriously. If Larry was constantly looking to be the guy that made the assist, right? Forget the distraction, forget being the hockey assist guy and playing within a system and not monopolizing the ball. If Larry played like a James Harden or LeBron James and was looking to get the assist, the focal point, if he was the system, like these guys were the system, at one point, LeBron James still is, Harden not so much anymore, but in his Rockets days, he was the system. Russell Westbrook in OKC, post Kevin Durant. If Larry played like that, his averages would probably be around. Honestly, I'm not being egregious. What I'm saying isn't an exaggeration. Larry's numbers would probably be something like 38 points per game, 16 assists per game, maybe 15. 38. You know what? I'll say 38, 14 assists, 10 rebounds. 38, 14 assists, 10 rebounds. If he monopolized the ball like a lot of these other players do. And I'm saying, and well, they monopolize the ball too, but they never have 14 assists. Yeah, but none of those guys are as good as a passer as Larry Bird. Russell Westbrook is not as good as a passer as Larry Bird. LeBron James, though people like to think LeBron is a better passer than Larry Bird, fuck no he isn't. Fuck no. Hell no. Man, LeBron James getting 6 assists, 7 assists per game, monopolizing the ball. Larry did it without monopolizing the ball. Fuck you talking about? And Larry's passes are just way nicer. That's my opinion. Baloncesto, you can be mad at it all you want. If Larry dominated the ball, his numbers would be even crazier. But he didn't. He was able to have these amazing numbers just playing within the confines of the team and being a great player that he is and having a super high basketball IQ and being able to read defenses and understand how these defenses work against him, and just having an amazing knack, man, for understanding the game, the time, the score, and what needs to be done. So Larry Bird gets, a lot of people think Larry Bird was a poor defender, which really wasn't the case. Any given night, Larry Bird was average defensively to above average defensively. Larry Bird wasn't a lockdown defender at all. No, he wasn't that kind of player. But he had a really high basketball IQ, and like I said, he could read what the offense was doing and had a knack for understanding, watching a lot of film, understanding players' tendencies, and also he had a really good ability to not just guard his man, but play the spaces around him and affect the spaces around him between his assignment and the rest of the opposition on the floor. And he would constantly dissuade players from making passes because of him covering the spaces, putting his hand out, putting his hand to stop an inbound pass for maybe a possible matchup disparity on the Boston Celtics and things like that. Yeah, Bird just had a knack for anticipating players' moves, understanding, and he could really roam the court well and still be within range of his primary defensive assignment. Not to get burnt or to potentially cause a mismatch by losing his defender. He was exceptional at that. Hence, he made 3 All-NBA defensive selections, All-NBA second-team defensive selections. So he made 3. And, I mean, that speaks for itself, to be honest. Larry Bird was also clutch, as we all know. Bird is one of the best clutch players that have ever stepped foot on a basketball court. Every time Larry shot that shot, everybody thought it was going in. And if it didn't go in, people were surprised. I even heard somebody say it, and I thought it was hilarious. They're like, yep, here's some video footage of Larry Bird getting a shot up to potentially win the game or tie the game, whatever. And as many times as I've seen this footage and know that shot's going in, every time I watch it, I'm still surprised it didn't go in and I expect it to go in. That's how consistent and reliable Larry Bird was in clutch time situations. Dude was cold-blooded. He was cold-blooded, had all the confidence in himself, and so did everybody else. And every time a defender saw that shot go up, they was holding their breath. And when it didn't go in, it was a big sigh of relief. So I did mention Bird's back-to-back-to-back MVPs. That has not been done since Larry Bird. We'll see if Nikola Jokic can pull it off this season. But if that's not a a sign of some kind of dominance, back-to-back-to-back MVPs, I don't know what is. And cool fun fact that I've learned from people here on this channel, some of the years where Bird didn't get MVP, four of those years where he didn't get MVP, he was the runner-up MVP. Think about it. Think about it. I don't think his rebounding gets talked about enough, man, to be honest. Here you got a guy that everybody says can't jump, can't jump, can't jump. But yeah, he's out here out rebounding all these other athletic players on a consistent basis. Why? High basketball IQ, smart, knows how to post up, knows how to read where the ball is going, and securing possessions for his team. Meanwhile, you got all these other players. Oh, he's a hulking athlete. Oh, he's jumping out the gym at a comparable height to Larry Bird, but can't pull down rebounds like Bird. Why are you getting out rebound? I don't give a damn how high you jump. What good is all that when you can't give me the goddamn rebound like this guy can give me the goddamn rebound? I mean, Larry Legend all day. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about how Larry Bird saved the NBA because I've spoken on it so much, and then I went into it a lot with the Magic Johnson video that I just put out for his all-time ranking. But we all know, it's well documented, Larry Bird, along with Magic Johnson, their rivalry stemming back to college, and then these players coming in, revolutionizing the league, pulling it out of a very dark place that was going nowhere good into the dark abyss, pulled it, resuscitated, gave new life to the NBA, and brought hype, got people back to NBA games, got people watching TV again, got people listening to the radio again, got people buying tickets again. Why? To see Larry Bird go to work, to see Magic Johnson go to work, to see these two continually clash. They saved the league. They saved the league. They are heroes of the NBA. We don't know what the NBA would be today if it was not for Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Will we still even have an NBA? Would it be something completely different to what we're looking at right now? Had the NBA fallen deeper into this black hole that it was on course for, or well into course? Who knows? We'll never know. Why? Because Larry Legend, Magic Johnson, saved the NBA. When Larry got drafted, he had an immediate impact on the team, immediately turning that team into a championship contender. Started at power forward, I think. They had a 32-game improvement from where they were previously once Larry Bird stepped on the court. Catapulted that Boston Celtics team to the #1 seed in their conference. And they made it all the way up to the conference finals where they were eliminated by the Philadelphia 76ers. But they had a hell of a run. And Larry Bird was a big reason for everything coming together with that squad. His skill set, his leadership, his ability to galvanize his team, galvanize his troops to be the best version of themselves within a team concept. Larry Bird did have a lot to do with that. Like many players in the past, Larry Bird played through injury. You don't get that a lot now these days. Actually, you really don't get it ever. The last player that stepped foot on the NBA floor that was historically known for playing through grueling injuries was Kobe Bean Bryant. But I haven't seen a player since him follow that same kind of path and ideology when dealing with these kind of injuries. Larry Bird, you can argue, did that at a higher level than anybody and more than anybody in the history of this league. Larry Bird, before he even stepped foot on the court, he had that finger injury. Larry Bird had sustained that grueling finger injury, which caused his finger to look like a people said a boomerang. And considering how great of a shooter Larry Bird was with that crooked ass finger, he was a better shooter than he was prior to the finger injury. Because could you imagine had he not injured his finger, how even more lights out Larry would have been shooting the basketball? And Larry said His shot never felt the same after that injury. Never felt the same. Never quite felt as good prior to that injury. So he had to play through that for his entire career. Mid-80s, screwed his back up for life. Shoveling gravel or crushed rock or something, trying to help his mom build a driveway. Screwed his back up. Continued for the rest of his career having nagging back injuries as a result from that. Including nerve problems in his back. If anybody's ever had back problems before, I don't even know how you can get on the floor and play with some of the back problems, man. It's hard to stand up straight. That's why you always see Larry laying on his back when he's not in the game. Trying to nurse his back, trying to take care of his back when he ain't on the floor. He even had that grueling foot injury. And after the game, his whole shoe was bloody. His whole shoe was bloodied up. Playing in a pool of blood in your shoe. And then he had that one injury where I don't even know how the dude didn't just go unconscious for months, where he banged his head on the court so hard, went in the locker room, came back out. Let's play this game. Let's finish this basketball game. I don't even know. And I just hate these players that flop today, flopping with no contact or little contact. Meanwhile, you got people out here like Bird legitimately getting effed up on the court and off the court, but on the court getting effed up. They'll shake it off and get right back up. They would never flop. You kidding me? Crazy, man. It's disrespectful to the players that took real beatings and got laid out on the floor. For you to come out here and flop. Disrespectful to those players. That's how I look at that. When you take into context all of these nagging injuries that I probably didn't even mention. Oh, I didn't even mention the double Achilles surgery. I didn't even mention the doubles Achilles surgery. Right? Getting the spurs out of him. The bone spurs. And that was the reason why he only played 6 games. So imagine, on top of all your other injuries that you have, right? All the injuries we laid out about Bird. Right? And then have a double Achilles surgery. Right? Near the tail end of your career. Near the tail end of your career. You come back the next season and have averages of 24 points per game, 7.5 assists, and 9.5 rebounds. At the later end of your career, off a double Achilles surgery. On top of your bad back and everything else. Still a premier player in this league. Even all the way up to his quote-unquote 13th year, Larry was still a premier player in the league despite his back severely limiting him. So after his Achilles surgery season, when he came back, he played 75 games. After that, he played 60 games. After that, he played 45 games before he ended up retiring. But when he played, he was still a premier player. Just the back was nagging him. The back was keeping him out. And I just found this out recently that his last season, they actually started pulling him off the bench when he came back from his injury sometime in the spring, and then he didn't get another start until the playoffs. They had to start bringing him off the bench. And still a premier player in the league. I would have liked to see what Larry Bird's career would have been had he played a longer career like some of these players, at least a solid 16 years. I would have loved to see what else Larry had in the bag, because Larry tell you himself, and he wouldn't even have to say this, I know this, Larry still had a lot more left in the tank. Obviously, you can see what he was doing at an older age with his mileage and how long he's been in the league, with all his injuries. You still saw what this guy was able to do. But sometimes, unfortunately for some players, your body fails you. Your body fails you when you still have a lot to give, and Larry was one of those players. All that Larry Bird accomplished, team success and individually, in a span of 12, I'm going to continue to say 12 because that's 6 seasons, man. Come on, man, you can't count that. But if you want to say 13 to be technically correct, whatever. 12 to 13 years, everything he was able to achieve team-wise and individually cannot be understated. It cannot be. Not everybody's blessed with the longevity. Some people just get unlucky. Bad things just happen to some people that have to derail their career or force them into early retirement. Larry was one of them. But he made the most of his career in the time that he had to be in the league before he said, you know what, I'm done. And honestly, if Larry Bird was healthy, I think the Boston Celtics that last year, one of those last years, they didn't have a very high seeding in the rankings because of Larry Bird's absence. But I promise you, had Larry been readily available, that team would not have. They would have had a better record than what they had. Absolutely. I know I didn't cover everything about Larry Bird. You could sit here for hours upon hours upon hours and talk about the amazing player that Larry Bird was, everything he did on the court, everything he meant to his teammates, how he impacted the game. There's millions of Larry Bird stories out there as we've covered them. But based on everything I presented to you is why I decided to rank Larry Bird number 3 on my all-time greatest players of all time. I definitely get, even though Magic Johnson had more championships than Larry, I had to take into consideration that Larry was a better defender, and that counts as you as a complete basketball player. It does. Larry was a better defender. Larry was a better shooter. Larry was a better scorer, and Larry was almost as good of a passer as Magic Johnson. So I had to take that into account, even having 2 championships less. I gotta take everything in the context and weigh everything collectively, and that's why I put Larry Bird ahead of Magic Johnson, especially. And just the eye test. The other thing is the eye test. When I see this guy play, how good is he compared to the other players that I've seen? Y'all let me know what you think about it. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. I know there's more I could have added, but I can't stay here for hours. So if you would like to add more context and more information to all the things that I said about Larry Bird, please drop it in the comment section. I appreciate you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Salute to Larry Legend. In my opinion, the greatest Celtic of all time. And the 3rd greatest player of all time. My opinion, Larry Legend. We out, baby.